Oh, hi, Heart Awakening Buddhism. Uh, I'm going to be reading from some notes, so just some scribbled notes. So my eyes will be casting down, but it's a largely unscripted video. I haven't made any research, so any inaccuracies that I say, sorry. Talking about, like Buddhism is allegedly about truth, which all religions are allegedly about truth, or all philosophies are allegedly about knowing the truth. And I suppose generally speaking, you can say Buddhism claims the same, to be about knowing the nature of reality, knowing the truth. And truth might be a bit of an easy statement, but it gets the point, like to know the nature of reality, or the truth. So I just want to say some things to friendly and constructively challenge what for many Buddhists is the orthodox view. In my Buddhist research, which over the years I looked into historical Indian accounts, like other accounts that were written at the time of Buddha, in contrast to what the old Pali texts say, and I'd like to share some things. So, like the Pali texts are not the only documents that claim to be written at the time of the Buddha. Some other texts are, I'll tell you, the Jains, what we nowadays call the Jains, but they go by different names. Well, even in the Pali texts, in the Tripitaka, it states on numerous occasions that Buddha met one of the founders of Jainism. In the Pali text, he's referred to as Mahavira. But if you compare what the Jain ancient texts say about Buddha and what the Jain texts say about the dialogues between the Mahavira and the Buddha, and if you compare what the Jain opinion was of the Buddhists and actually Mahavira's opinion of the Buddha, I can tell you it's very different from what the Buddhist texts say. According to the Buddhist text, Mahavira all but admits that the Buddha defeated him in debate, and that the Mahavira's followers, the Jain followers, were inferior to Buddha's followers. But just to say, if you look at the historical documents of the Jain tradition, there's two completely different stories there. So if you want to inspect all the evidence, look at other historical documents from the period. There are other historical documents about various things in India, like for example, believe it or not, there's lots of evidence about the dress code, how dress code evolved in India, and how the women used to expose their right shoulder, and then they expose the midriff and different. There's a lot of documentation about the dress code, but various other things, archaeology and kings, the kings of India. So you can do a lot of research and compare. But just to say, the Jain texts paint a very different picture from the Buddhist texts. I like to talk about Devadatta. There is another historical text, which is the Lotus Sutra. I think in Sanskrit it's the Sundara. How do you say lotus? Padma. Oh, Sundara. I don't. Anyway, in English we call it the Lotus Sutra. The Lotus Sutra paints a very different picture of Devadatta than the Pali texts do. It's quite difficult to decipher what the Lotus Sutra is trying to say about Devadatta, but it certainly doesn't call him evil and the agent of the devil as the Pali texts do. If you go to Theravada countries like Sri Lanka, Burma, Thailand, there's approximately 150 million people who believe that Devadatta symbolises evil and badness. But if you go to Mahayana countries, especially China and Japan and Korea, where the Pure Land School has different names, but the Pure Land School is very popular. You'll find there's 500 million Buddhists, I mean that's just a rough guess, who think Devadatta was a very wise person. I mean, when I lived in the Zen monasteries in Japan for 2 years, we actually chanted portions of the Lotus Sutra every day. So it's not only the Pure Land schools that revere the Lotus Sutra, and because the Lotus Sutra talks about Devadatta in a positive way, then if you have to compare the facts, there's about 150 million Buddhists who say Devadatta was the agent of the devil, and there's about 500 million Buddhists who say actually no, he was a wise teacher. So just to be out, and if you go to the Sri Lanka, you'd be hung up and drawn and quartered if you dare to suggest that Devadatta might have been a good man. I mean, I had contact with some Burmese monks recently, and we fell out because they were saying anyone who follows Devadatta's teachings is a heretic and an apostate and will go to hell. So it's kind of similar to the Islamic teachings that if you go against the Quran, and if you dare to question the authority of the Quran, then you go to hell. But in many Buddhist countries, if you dare to question the authority, the standard view about Devadatta and other things, then you're in big trouble. So just to say that there are different views out there, and it might be good to look at these different views. Hold on. Right, I don't know what time it is, so I'm going to end this video, but I'll make another one.